Take 3, as it were. Paul Doyle of Salford. That's OV, of Salford. First time I saw Paul, and I'm a Sheffield lad, me, Yorkshire lad, from other side at Pennines. I didn't know who these people were. I heard stories. I'd heard stories of Paul One Punch Doyle. Either hand, ba-bam. I'd heard stories, but I didn't know who he was. So I'm on G-Wing, we're looking for a cleaner. G-Wing was the induction wing. I'm working on healthcare. Healthcare could be a chaotic place to work. Most of the patients, the lads on there, were unwell, mentally unwell. Some medicated, some not. It had its own odour. You know, we get the worst detoxes, even though there was a detox wing. Remember a lad coming off benzodiazepines, the worst detox. Alcoholics, smashing cells, climbing walls, hallucinating, spiders crawling over them, noisy place. So the lads, we get to work on there, you know, we needed people that could be trusted. We got 2 lads, Jason Lloyd, Jay Dunkley. Cracking lads, you could have a conversation and they get on with their job. We wanted a 3rd. So this lad, he's got long, powerful forearms, you could see that. Like Popeye would have, without the anchor tattoos. He got a face that was, I wouldn't say hard, weathered. And been up and down the hill a few times, that sort of thing. Didn't particularly carry himself in a menacing way. But me, I'm looking, I'm people watching all the time. Couldn't work out him. Could just see the forearms. He weren't a bodybuilder, I could see that. Anyway, a week later, Paul Doyle, Paul One Punch Doyle, arrives on healthcare. Jay introduced me. We got on like a house on fire. You just click with some people. Yeah? Down to earth, family guy. And his family, boy, they're successful people. They've not followed him down the chosen path. Incidentally, Paul Doyle is the only person I've ever met, and I've met a few, ask them all the same question. If you could go back, of course they would. They'd all choose different futures. Go away from crime, no prison. Not Paul Doyle. 17, he set out, he had a plan to be the best criminal he could be. No regrets, no nothing else. Lived a fighter's life. He had a reputation. If you've got a reputation, you're going to get challenged. Doorman, people fancy their chances, crime families, all manner of gangsters. A fighter, a real fighter. You see, everyone at the top of the game can't necessarily fight. And how he told the stories, for me, was quite humble. He wasn't talking about beating people up or doing this lad in or doing that lad in. Spoke about it in just a really humble way. You know, people tell stories, don't they? They're in a scrap, or I did him or I did them. I just found him very, very humble. But more than that, you know, my 2 managers, KK and Bradders, talking about them 3 lads, Paul Doyle, Jay Dunkley, Jason Lloyd, they liked him. They were part of the workforce. I don't know whether you can imagine that. They helped out. Quite often we were locked down, particularly towards the end of my career. So I might be on my own, I can't get anyone out. Lads who were unwell behind the door, stuck behind the door, them 3 lads would stand talking to them all day. You know, One Punch Doyle stood with some lad, mentally unwell, chatting away to him. The lad won't be making sense, but they'd engage with him. They'd do that. They were kind, they'd help him out. If somebody got nothing, they'd give them shower gels and stuff like that. Make sure everyone was all right. And they looked after the nursing staff as well. They got the backs. I remember one of my managers saying, you know, that possibly possibly, you know, Paul Doyle, one of the nicest people she'd ever met in prison, and that's staff or prisoners. Now, you won't want to mess with him on the out, quite definitely not, and I quite definitely wouldn't want to fight him, not a chance. But you see a different side to some people, and it's not bringing them down, it's not taking away from their hard man image or anything like that. It's just showing you that some of these people have a human side. You know, they can have empathy and understanding for people who aren't well, and I'll tell you now, some of the lads we had on there weren't well. You had a little Jim on there. I told them me, once they'd done the chores, you didn't have to ask them, they'd just get on with it. And some of the jobs, you know, we had people in cells, the cells were awful. A state, stinking, just go in and they'd clean them and they'd look after people, make sure they got clean clothes. But every single day, "You all right, boss? Can I go in the gym? Can I go in the gym?" Of course you can, Paul. Train hard as well. It was only a little CV gym. They'd use bottles of water and improvise stuff to do weight training. Every day, all three of them in there. But this for me was the one thing that sort of made life bearable for me. Association. So that's when you get the prisoners out. You imagine 20 lads, not well, mentally unwell, in a room, pool room, TV. Yeah, it wasn't great. If there was 2 officers, one would be in the office, I'd be on my own with a healthcare assistant. That was someone who assisted the nurses, a worthwhile person too, very supportive. And them 3 lads, I'd make sure they were in there, and they'd play pool with everyone and engage with people, play cards, chat to lads who weren't well. You know, it was a great time, really. I loved my job at that time. You know, there was a lot of trauma, a lot of incidents. It was quite a violent, dangerous place to work. But I always felt safe when them lads were out and about. I felt like I got back up. Yeah. Like to have a coffee with him one day. Still a lot of questions I'd like to ask him. In fact, all 3 of them lads. They were a good set of lads. They helped me out a lot. They made life bearable. And they looked after the nursing staff. So, Paul Doyle at Salford, of Salford, One Punch Doyle. For me, in prison, working on the healthcare, he was a real gentleman. Just going to leave it there, guys. Thanks for your continued support. God bless you all. We do need to stand together, guys, shoulder to shoulder. Big things coming in this country. Stick together. Thanks for coming. I'll see you.